Hello out there, and today we have some quick hits, which are a number of updates that I've been trying to get to for quite a while. Just some things I wanted to follow up on with a number of knives that I've talked about in the past, and none of these things really warrant their own full videos, so I thought it would be neat to just try to pack a lot into one video and get you all of that information in one spot. So down below in the description, I will definitely let you know all the knives that we're talking about and the order that we're talking about them so that you can skip to the places that interest you the most. But as you can see here, we are starting with these Salt 2s. I talked about the Salt 2s recently, and as you can see, I did a blade swap between the satin one that came with the yellow scales and the black on black one. And what I said in my previous video was that you could actually do a swap with your Delicas because the Delicas use the same scales. And what I failed to realize when I said that was that the Delicas have liners while the Salt 2s do not. And so swapping the scales just wouldn't work for that reason, but you still could swap the blades. And so the way that you would want to do that was when you take the knife apart, you take the blade out, and you'd have to take the lock bar, because those are slightly different, and put it into your Delica scales, and then take the Delica blade and put it into your Salt scales, and that should work. Now, obviously, you would lose the liner aspect, going from one to another, so you'd have to be willing to make that compromise, but it still is technically possible. So definitely wanted to follow up with you on that. You can see that it was really easy to do with the Salt 2s, and I think I got what is a pretty cool color scheme right here. So really happy with these configurations, but it is something that you can look at for other knives as well, meaning the Delicas. All right, next, let's bring in the Kershaw Dividend. And this was on camera slightly, a small amount of time when I talked about the really great lightweight knives. And I did a review on this model quite a while ago, but it was the plastic handled version. And I recently picked up this aluminum version. And while I did a very positive review of the other handle earlier, I really did think at the time that I would enjoy this aluminum one a lot more, and I just wanted to follow up and say that I do. I really like it. The things that when I was deciding, I guess, on the plastic handle on this version, it was because I thought that the Kershaw Link, this one's bigger brother, was a little bit too slick with the aluminum handled version. And I figured out, holding the Dividend, that because of the ergonomics, that would not really matter as much, and it doesn't. This one is really excellent. I love the aluminum. Definitely prefer it too. So wanted to follow up with you about that this is just a really neat model, a good EDC, and I think I spoke pretty highly of it in that lightweight knife video as well. Just under 3 ounces, but a good, strong, a little bit larger design than the Leak. So yeah, very good knife. All right, and next, let's go into just a little bit of odd news. So here we have the blade of a CRKT Amicus, and I'm working on an Amicus again, which is why this knife does not have the rest of it at this point. But this is the third Amicus that I think I've owned, and each one of them had just a really interesting grind, as you can see right here. Try to focus on that. Just really, really uneven when it comes to the amount of, the amount of metal that was taken off on one side of the blade versus the other. Just not an even grind line at all. I've seen that again, like I said, on all 3 of the Amicuses that I've had. So just something I wanted to bring to your attention. The knife cuts. It is just fine. It is something that I guess you could fix over time if you really wanted to, but yeah, something that you don't usually see from CRKT, at least not this, not this bad. I mean, this is pretty significant. So yeah, just wanted to show that and let you know that I've had that experience before. What is next? Let's go with this right here. This knife is the Ganzo F733. Really reminiscent of the Spyderco Stretch, And I had these great big plans when it came to the Stretch, because I had this knife and I had two Spyderco Stretch 2s, the VG10 version and the ZDP 189 version. And for quite a while I was planning on doing a comparison video between all three knives and how they performed. The most curious part being how the 440C here would compare to the VG10. And unfortunately, that footage is never going to be seen because the video just didn't work out the way that it should have. Sorry, I think we have a helicopter flying overhead right now. But the footage just didn't work out the way that I wanted it to, because the first thing I noticed about the the ZDP 189 was that it just had a really toothy edge on it, which was fine. I thought that might be intentional with the ZDP. You know, it might be a little bit harder to get to that really fine fine edge, the razor edge that you would expect to see on most new Spydercos. But it cut just fine, performed really well, and didn't have an issue with it. But once I started the tests, you know, it was very different with the results I was getting between that and the VG10 and this 440C Ganzo version. So I tried to touch the knife up, and I just wasn't able to. My ability as a sharpener, and with the stones that I have, and just my technique, whatever it was, I wasn't able to get it to where they all had an even quality of an edge, and so those tests just didn't really work out. I ended up selling both knives, and for your information, the ZDP went to my good buddy Machete J, and he has some very good equipment and was able to get a ridiculous razor edge on it in no time. So no real problem with the quality of that knife, but just unfortunately, I was not able to do the testing video that I wanted to. So yeah, a little bit of a failure there. This knife did perform pretty well in the stuff that I tested it out on, as expected. I did nick the edge a little bit, but it sharpened out really easily. So like this Ganzo a whole lot. All right, and then a couple more things. This knife right here, this Camillus Heat. So I have not been able to use this knife the way that I wanted to, because from the get-go there's been a little bit of up and down play. You know, you can hear that, you can see it, and I thought it was something I could fix. And whoever it was that commented in the video about this knife that it was a gas station knife is going to definitely appreciate the fact that I was not able to get this to work properly. But while I don't think that, I just am sort of at a loss as to why this is, because check this out. So the way that this knife disengages, you know, you pull this back and it's just really smooth, and it pulls the knife all the way, you know, and then the flipper really smooth. But if I can get this focused, you might see here, there's a screw right there where that stop pin is. And you can actually adjust this knife, and I'm going to try to do this on camera. You can adjust the lockup of the knife. And I have no idea why you would want to do that. I don't know what purpose that serves, like why you would want it to be anything, anything less than perfect. But I'm trying to show you the scary thing. I mean, there's no sweet spot for one. Let me see if I can get in there. Again, not easy to do this on camera, but you can adjust this to the point where the knife just doesn't lock up at all. And you can just swing it open and close. And sorry, I'm going to block the camera for a second. I really did want to show this to you. Yeah, there. Now, why would you want to be able to do that? It doesn't really make any sense to me. So I'm not sure why there's a screw there, why you're able to mess with that. I mean, it seems like a huge safety liability for anyone who's just messing with their knives. And unfortunately, just knowing that you can do this and not being able to get it to a sweet spot where it locks up securely, I can't really comfortably use this knife. So honestly, to whoever said this was a gas station knife, you could probably get more use out of a gas station knife than what I am out of this because I haven't been able to use this. That said, anyone who has experience with this model, hit me up down below if you can, or if you know anything about it, and know what my next step should be, because it's just really interesting, and I've got to think that there is a way around this, and and a way to get this knife to lock up properly, because it wouldn't have been on sale at all if you couldn't, right? Hopefully. All right. Now, last but not least, one more update. Here are a couple more knives. All right, and what we have here is a Ganzo. You can see a lot of fingerprints on it. This is the Firebird 759M. And then we have a Bird Meadowlark. Right, and I'm following up because I did a review of this Ganzo knife and really didn't like it. Didn't care for it. I didn't like the handle scales. Mine had a little bit of play and a lot of flex, in the blade, and just wasn't a very good knife in my opinion. And so what I decided to do after all of the negative feedback I got about it was I decided to buy a Meadowlark to compare it to and get another one of the Ganzos just to really be sure. Anytime you guys give me feedback, I want to follow up on that. I want to be as accurate as possible with some of the information that I'm giving. And if my opinion is challenged, the first thing that I do is I look into it and make sure that I have as much information as possible, to get you the right information. Well, I found out that I just don't like this knife. That's really all there is to it. This one does lock up just fine. There is flex. If you push up and down, you can get a little bit of flex, but it is sturdy and strong. But it's the same way with the Meadowlark. Meadowlark is a little bit stronger, it seems, but both of these knives, they're so similar. These knives, you can see a different texturing on the actual scales, but apart from that, they are almost identical. The blade steel's different, but everything about them looks exactly the same. If these two knives were not built in the same factory or built by the same people in different factories or friends or something, there has to be, in my opinion, some correlation in the manufacturing of these two knives. The jimping feels the same. The blade shape is the same. Everything is so similar that, you can't say that correlation proves causation, but sometimes there's too much of a coincidence for me to believe that it actually is a coincidence. And that's the case here. So I just don't care for the knife is the bottom line. I really don't like the scales on either of them. So if I were going to pick, one of these two knives, I guess just with the quality of Ganzo's 440, probably go with the Ganzo, I guess. Like I said, I don't care for either of them, but now that I've seen the Meadowlark next to the Ganzo, I guess I'd go with the Ganzo. Just sort of is what it is. So wanted to follow up with you guys about that. I guess every knife isn't for everybody, because I know there's a lot of people who are big fans of this one, but I guess it's just not for me. So that's it. That's all I got for that update. And that is actually all the updates. So any other questions, comments, complaints, suggestions, as always, let me know down below. Look forward to hearing from you, and I will talk with you soon with some new knife reviews. Take care.